Hello and welcome to Xcede Sofa Series. We are joined by Chandni Kumar from the Expedia. Welcome, Chandni.
Thank you for having me.
It's great that you're here. I know that we've obviously spoken quite a few times in the past. You kindly spoke at an event that we hosted the other day, a data product event, and you come to us with a sort of extraordinary career that you've had within data product management, spanning around sort of 15 or so years. You've worked at some of the top consultancies, sort of Capgemini, Highland. Then you've gone to some obviously consumer brands with the Bally's Corporation, Royal Mail, and now you're obviously data product lead at Expedia. And I think from our event that we hosted the other week and also some of the work that we've done in this space, I think we seem to really hit a nerve on data product as a concept and how it is sort of managed differently in organisation to organisation, but also how people are maybe still struggling to sort of understand that concept. So for someone that's got so much of a broad experience as you in that area, it's great to have you here today where hopefully you can talk about, you know, some of these issues or some of the challenges that you've faced and ultimately how you've overcome them.
Great. All right.
So let's start. What, I suppose, are the three sort of things that you like most about working in data product?
Yeah, so for me, the journey of data product actually started from data. So right after I got recruited into Capgemini, I joined them as a data consultant after my engineering, and my first job was actually that of a data analyst. And the reason I stuck with data as a discipline is because I really enjoy the nature of working in the data team and the nitty-gritty of things. It's almost like, people have a lot of opinions around you, but what data allows you to do is it allows you to look at the underlying trends and actually tell you what's happening and where you're headed. And it almost feels like, like a job of a detective. And that kind of detail, analytical nature of working within data is something that resonates with my strengths. So that was the reason why I started off in data, and I really enjoyed that space. Somewhere halfway through my journey between then and where I am now, I got the opportunity to move into product. And the reason I then enjoyed product was because on top of the analytical and the more kind of detail-oriented work in data, what product allowed me to do was to be more creative, to be asking, like the questions like the why, like the so what's, and, like to really reason behind things. It allowed me to, really own something from concept to launch and then beyond. And that kind of creativity and to really, own the end-to-end process was something that I really, really enjoyed. So data and product together is something that I'm super passionate about. It's something that I love doing. It motivates me at work, and that's why I advocate for it.
Was it easy to find your feet transitioning between where you're just in on the detail of data and the analytical aspect to then having to work with stakeholders, lead teams, find the why, the what's, that sort of thing? Did you find your feet quite quickly?
It was definitely a learning curve. Like, I came from a data background. For that reason, my go-to response for anything was very solution focused. Like, I would jump onto how to fix a certain problem. So that bit when I moved into product was a learning curve, because I almost had to always take a step back to actually think of the material impact it's going to have on the people, whether the people is your customer or whether it's the people within your business or just the wider community. To work backwards from the people, that's that was a learning curve. And it almost, like, initially it was about consciously making that effort, and then it's a journey until such point where it organically comes to you.
So obviously, from the events that we've done and the conversations we've had and your longevity in this space, we see the challenges that data product people are still facing. Obviously, from a personal perspective, a lot of candidates I speak to in the industry, go into environments where maybe there isn't the sort of the buy-in for data products that they were expecting. But from your perspective, it's quite interesting to ask how the landscape of data products has changed in the sort of years you've been involved in it. What would you say that looks like now and where it's come from?
Yeah, so the concept of building products by leveraging data or using the data to make informed kind of insights from it is not something that's new, right? That's like existed for a while. But I think the main area where I have seen the evolution happen is really the mindset by the businesses to really treat data as actually part of the product itself as versus an output of something that's done through through their operations, and to then put the org and processes around data product as a function itself, to be able to create this as a formal role, to be offering this as a career path option within the data product functions. So that's really where I've seen kind of the massive evolution, particularly over the last kind of few years. And even like talking about data product manager as a role, right? So yes, their role, I mean, like the role of any product manager for that matter, is to bring in the business knowledge into the tech teams they work with, and so is the case with data product managers. But also, like some of the things that were historically considered to be, like technical, like building dashboards, querying, these are actually now very much integrated within the business functions, and people within business are able to do these things, and they're not even considered to be technical. So I guess for the data product manager, that role has also evolved in the sense that time to time getting their hands dirty with data as well, like not be afraid of data. And the more diversified one's kind of skill set within data product management is, the more value there is for them, and that's what the hiring kind of companies will look for as well. So I think just the nature of data product management as a function, the role itself, I've seen a lot of things change in this capacity over the years.
And you obviously mentioned the hiring companies. You have moved to Expedia within the last year, so I'm guessing you probably would have interviewed at a few places before you joined Expedia. Having seen different companies, if you do, and understanding how they sort of describe or see where they see the value in data product, was it quite eye-opening, or do you think every company now gets it?
I think the one thing that's common across all the companies is everyone, widely has accepted the fact that data is the tool which drives efficiency for the businesses, which allows them to tap into growth opportunities. And that's widely accepted across, the industries. What slightly could change is just the way they organize, like the data product function itself. You'll find them part of product, you'll find them part of data. But really, that's not where there is a material impact. As far as people within the business perceive the purpose of data product, it doesn't really matter where they sit.
And we know, obviously, product management is a broad term. Data product manager is a very interesting thing. There might be people watching this today that, either coming from sort of a data analytics background and want to get into product management, and that's a good route to take. But why did you choose specifically to get into data product management?
So, I mean, there is a lot of opportunity in this space. It goes without saying. I mean, and this is down to just the amount of data that is being created because of the expansion of things like social media and stuff like that. Like basically, I read this somewhere earlier, like a stats which said the 90% of the world's data has been actually created in the last 2 years, and it doubles every 2 years. Now someone somewhere is going to find this data useful, right? And with the increase in data, everybody wants to make sense of it, and there is so much of increase in in the hiring of roles like data scientists, data engineers. But what comes with that is also the like the rise and the increase in hiring for roles like data product managers, because you do need that role to be coming in and with the business skills that they bring to make sense of the data landscape, to bring all these different roles of data scientists, engineers, and all of them together, to build an effective team around them, and to really bring them home to be essentially delivering value for the enterprises. Now that is a role in itself. It's not really a role that can be diluted into like the other roles within data function. It is a role in itself which requires its own focus, and that is the realization that is kicking in. I think that just opens so much of more opportunities for a data product manager role. data product management itself is quite broad. Like, there are opportunities for one to be a generalist, like just look at, and be involved more end to end from the entire data journey, right from production of data to its curation to its consumption. Or you can choose to be more specific and choose an area of focus, like be focused on the platform and integration side, or focus on the analytics and the ML side. So there are lots of options even within the data product function itself. So really, it's down to one's liking, one's passion. I think it's just, so broad, and it's, and one has to love data. That's kind of like, like your bottom line and the minimum, kind of expectation. But then when you come in, you just realize that there's such plethora of opportunities. So why not? Why not, be part of data product?
And you obviously mentioned about, hiring companies. Since you started your career, or even if we look at sort of just 8, 9, 10 years ago, have you seen more demand in the job market for data product managers?
So yeah, absolutely seen a massive growth in the requirement and the need of data product managers. Data historically has always been seen as an enabler to the business, but what's happening recently with the talk and the narrative around data monetization is also that data itself is being seen as an asset, being seen as something that can directly serve to the external ecosystem as well. And actually, in that effort, the need of a data product manager becomes even more critical. So data product management, is something that as a role, as a requirement by the business for this role, it's like massively, yeah.
And this is really interesting because it's something that we've definitely seen. We've seen more and more requirements, more companies. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the companies that you think are absolutely enormous that are talking to us at the moment about making their first data product hires, whether that's more sort of data product owner side or, more data product management or sort of, lead, etc. But it does seem to be growing. And I don't think it's an overnight thing. I think it's been coming and coming and coming. But it's probably only going to get bigger for the reasons that you've mentioned.
Yeah, and one more kind of observation from my, like when I interview or when I am interviewed, until a few years ago, I'd find mostly, people within the data functioning, sort of interviewing for the role. Whereas now you actually have people within the business, within the wider product team, but not directly working within the data team, also coming forward to interview the role, which just, makes me kind of realize that actually the understanding of what a data product function does is more mature, is more integrated within the wider function, and people know what they're hiring for, they understand what we do. So I've really seen that change over the last few years.
And obviously you see people obviously becoming more aware, open-minded, building a case for data product management. But clearly this probably hasn't been an easy journey for you. There's probably been challenges everywhere you've gone. What would you say are the sort of the main challenges that you've faced as a data product manager in your career so far?
So that's a great question. If I have to pick maybe like my top 2. So I guess one of them is the continued effort to, wanting the business buy-in. So data is not something that business understands very easily, right? So there is a lot of storytelling that is required to really, win people's hearts and minds, and a lot of that does come down to the product manager who is, advocating for the data products, but working closely with the business. So that's something that kind of continues to be a challenge, and really the way you go about it is really you don't even talk about data when you talk to your stakeholders. Like the language you talk is what is a day in a life of your different stakeholders, what are the things that they do, what are their OKRs, what are the challenges that they face, and really just talk the language of growth and revenue. Like what is it that can be done for us to help you in what you do and actually grow the business from your perspective. But you really don't even talk about kind of data in that initial engagement with them. But somewhere through those conversations you do come down to how data can enable that particular business function. And then, that's when you really start to advocate for data. People understand what you're doing. They know what the starting point is going to be. And that's really how you turn around, like the support that sometimes may be hard to find. So that is one challenge. The other challenge, I would say, is the concept or the difference between product and project. So while there is still a lot of advocating and people understand the, like working with the product mindset, right? But the tendency is still to go down the project route, right? The tendency is still to, like expect all the answers up front, to have all the knowledge up front. And then if you land up working in a setup where you kind of have product methodologies, but your mindset is still that of a project, so that then becomes a challenge. So this is something that one can only get around by training people through what exactly is the product mindset, to also then have your leadership kind of be open to experimentation as a method, like be okay to sort of experiment with, and like be okay to failing, be okay to learning from it, and to allow that space for the product and the data functions. Data, like the products in general are always seen as expensive to be delivered because of the nature of development that goes behind it. But there's a way to go before we really start treating this space as a product as versus a project. So I think these are a couple of ongoing challenges that we do face within
and on that
the space.
Product versus project, are you still likely to find a more product driven culture in a modern product environment that hasn't necessarily had a data product function? Or do you think there would still be challenges there moving into that world to push for data product management?
So I guess the challenge, with that would really just be, around upskilling, right? Like somebody coming from the product, field into the data field will require the upskilling that's required to work within the data function, and to understand what data engineering does, what data science is about, and to have a working knowledge about that. Because even as much as a product manager is here to bring the business knowledge and the business skills, but a data product manager, a really good one, is one that has the working knowledge to work in the data function. So that will be the learning curve that they go through. And ultimately, even, in that environment, it's all about identifying, the opportunities to like really drive your prioritization through a place of, kind of value. And that's always a constant ongoing challenge with data. So, so I think there are different types of challenges, but it's not going to be smooth sailing in that front as well.
And if you could go back to the start of all of this,
okay,
what advice would you give yourself at that point based on all of the knowledge and experience you've had up to this date?
So the advice I would give rather anyone who's starting new, right? So the first thing I would suggest, like I would strongly say, is to be the person who is solving problems. So you'll find a lot of people within the business who will come and tell you, these are the problems, or these are the opportunities or gaps, which we could go after. But very few will come and tell you, actually, this is how you can solve this problem, or these are the 3 ways in which you can overcome this, and this is the recommendation. Like, that's not the language most people will talk. But if you do speak that language, if you do come in with a problem solving mindset, you just stand out, and you're somebody that everybody will want in their team, and that's something. So I would say, like be the problem solver, right? And if you identify this early in your journey, then the better for you, because if you will build a brand around yourself just by doing that. The second thing I would say is, share the knowledge that you learn. So there is a mindset with many, that actually the knowledge that, one has is one's power, right? But actually, sharing that knowledge and going after something you don't know and learning something you don't know is more powerful. So be that person who shares the knowledge, because when you share that knowledge, your network will do the same for you, and that's going to massively accelerate your learning curve. And data is an ongoing, kind of changing landscape. So really, you're not going to learn as much through trainings as much as you're going to learn through your network. So share the knowledge and take people along on the journey with you. And I guess the last thing I would say is find your niche. So for me, data was my niche because I came from the data background, so it was really easy for me to just, kind of sink into that niche within product management. But I think there's a lot of value in having a niche. Like you stand out, you stand out, people know you for something, you do land up creating a brand around you. So there is a lot of value in being a generalist, not diluting that by any means, but I advocate for specialization. So find that. It doesn't have to be something you do in the first 10 years of your career, but eventually get to that point.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chandni. It's been so insightful. Obviously, you're incredibly well networked in this space and clearly passionate about it. I know you were involved in our event a few weeks ago, but what's next for you in terms of, like you said, building that network and really sort of creating more of a voice and a conversation around data product management?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like from the network event that we had like a couple of weeks ago, what was evident for me was just how much this community is growing. Like if you told me, like maybe even 2 or 3 years ago that, we have a data product event on a Thursday sort of, like evening, and the turnaround is going to be 80 people, I wouldn't have even believed it because I didn't even know that there are that many people within this discipline within London alone, right? So it's definitely, like quite alarming, but also really, really exciting because now, there's an opportunity for all of us within the space, to be exchanging ideas, to be sharing experiences and taking it to the next level. So I have been, in this space, in the capacity of a mentor for a few years as well, and had this opportunity to really, kind of groom people coming in new into this community. And I think like there'll be lots of opportunity to do that with this growing, kind of community as well. So.
And what I've seen is just the passion for this area and the thirst for knowledge that people have. So just getting that voice out there more. I know there's a lot of people that are big advocates for maybe sort of growing that community. It's so important because, like you said, it's growing the network. It's sharing ideas, information. And this will only get bigger and probably more valuable for a lot of companies as well. So, great to see you're doing that. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed speaking to you and wish you the best.